live show. Millions of listeners around the world. Welcome to the Laurent Schark Selection Radio Show.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Selection live radio show. We are connected on more than 40 radios. The first artist I'm going to welcome tonight is French. He's living between Paris and Los Angeles. He's an amazing producer, a sound designer, and it was literally a personal request to have him on the show. I'm a huge fan. He's coming with a brand new single with fantastic remixes, and he's live with me from his own recording studio. Let's no wait no more, ladies and gentlemen, dear listeners. I have the massive privilege to welcome an artist that I'm a huge fan of, because he's one of these, French touch artists. His name is Edouard. Edouard, bonsoir, comment ça va?
Bonsoir Laurent, ça va très bien, merci.
Écoute, tu sais quoi, parce que tu es français, on va se le faire un peu en français, un petit peu en anglais. Alors, sorry, Paul, I know One Mix FM, I know you're, English radio, but I have the chance to have like a massive, French producer, so we're gonna do half and half, okay? Because we, let's say 50% of our radios, they are, francophone, so we're gonna do a little bit of everything, okay? I know your English is pretty good, Edouard.
I can speak in English.
Of course you can. Of course you can.
You tell me. I can switch. So I can do everything.
So if I need it, I will translate. Okay. So Edouard, you're an amazing producer. You are. I've been following you for a while. I know you're doing some, like technical things, like doing some things for in the music industry, in the studio world, like a geek stuff, And when I read your biography, you've been doing everything. You've been a salesman, you've been a lawyer, you've been doing like big stuff, and you came back to your first passion, your first love, which is music.
Yes.
I wish this interview could last 2 hours, because I've got like so many questions, especially because we have like a lot of young artists who are following the path, your path. It's like, is that hard? So we're gonna try to make as relevant as possible. So you're French. Obviously, you live in LA.
Yes.
Okay, and listeners know how much I'm a California lover.
Part-time in LA, in Santa Monica, and part-time in Paris.
There you go. So you've been in the game for quite a while. Let's be honest, you've been producing, you've been doing some, and we're gonna play a lot of really good tracks of yours. If you have to, let's try to sum it up to the first milestone, the first achievement. This moment when you feel like, okay, there is something starting for me. What would it be? The first milestone.
Well, it has to be when I started, and it was during, the French touch wave. And at that time, I was a sign artist in a band that was called the Wisman.
Nice.
And I realized something happened when I turned on the radio. It was Radio FG, and I could hear my track. So that was kind of a big moment for me. For the first time, yes.
When you listen to your music for the first time on a massive FM radio, and especially in Paris, Radio FG, for the international listeners, it's literally the best house music radio, FM radio in France. So is kind of is le Graal, the Graal, you know what I mean? When you are a producer, you want your music to be played on the Radio FG, because it's like, okay, I did something good. So you as I said, you've been through your personal life. I've been through, you've done everything literally. And then you was like, okay, I need to do some music. Were you born a musician? Is that something which was sleeping in you? What was it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
When I was really young, I remember I had a very bad synthesizer, a cheap one, and I already tried to, without any technique, without any music theory, I already tried to make some music, and I would record that on tape, and I would try to play at school or during the holiday. Maybe I was trying to impress the girls, I don't know, but this is how I started, and then I was also a lot into computers, so electronic music made sense, and I started doing music in something that was called mod trackers, and it was not like music you would play an instrument and it would have line by line some notes entered, and it would play
a matrix.
Yes, matrix kind of sequencer, and I started like that, and I don't know why. I mean, I try to when I do something, I try to do the best I can in what I'm doing. I always want to to do it the best as best as I can, and this is why when I started trying to make some music and go to find a label, music label, and we actually managed to sign. At the time, it was called Apricot Records / Omnisonus,
yes,
and then it became a part of BMG, which was the major company in music, and so I did that. It was a great time because at the time it was really people were big with the French Touch, and we were part of several compilations with great artists. So like Étienne de Crécy, Motorbass, Alex Goffer,
wow.
and it was great. And at some point we realized, even though we were on radio and we did sell a lot of vinyl records at the time
that's
for
true,
DJs, but it wasn't enough to make a living, and I needed to do something, to have my career. So I continued with my IT engineering studies. And after that, for some reason, I lost track of music, even though I had that in me. And I don't know why it took that much time to come back. And I went through many different jobs and in many different things because I'm quite curious and I'm interested in a lot of things.
Yeah.
And recently, I would say it started maybe around 2018. Maybe even earlier than that, 2016 and 15, maybe even. There was a few random events that led to me coming back to music in different styles. First, it was participating, which has nothing to do with electronic music, but participating in giving concerts as a member of a choir.
Yeah. Oh, awesome!
Yeah. So at the Philharmonie de Paris and huge concert halls in London, in Lyon, and after this experiment, I felt, well, what can I do, because it was professional. I want something that's demanding. So after that, I challenged myself to get a certificate from the Berklee School of Music, which is a quite well-known school.
It's like number one school.
Yeah. And it's more, in that case, Berklee School of Music, it's more jazz music that they're teaching. And I had the chance to have Gary Burton as my teacher, as one of my teachers. Wow. And he's a 6-time Grammy winner. Yeah, so he's like very big. It's the vibraphonist who invented the technique with the 4 mallets. But that was yet another style. And after that, I still didn't compose electronic music again. I wasn't doing that yet, but I started collecting synthesizers for some reason, because I remember that when I was a child, I really dreamed of having a synthesizer, and I could only have one, and I had to wait a whole year before my parents could buy one,
Well, they're super expensive.
Yeah. And becoming an adult, I thought, well, now I can buy a synthesizer if I want, and I started a collection like that. And after, a year or so, I thought, with all the synthesizer, I felt a bit guilty if I'm not actually using them, if they're just toys. So I thought I need to be able to deserve them,
of course,
in a way. And then I decided to start again producing electronic music. Which was just 2 years ago, actually. And I started with a few singles, and I released 4 of them until this year, when I released my first EP with a set of remixes.
Oh,
that's the whole story in a very quick form.
That's amazing. So basically, music was still sleeping inside of us. This kind of passion was like...
It must have been sleeping. Absolutely.
A few days ago, you came up with this fantastic single called Into You, with, by the way, a fantastic remix of Lifelike that I welcomed on the show a while ago. You did... there is an original version. There is Edouard Tropical classical pop remix as well, an amazing Grace Kim remix as well. We're gonna play the original one because the original one is absolutely amazing. Edouard, I'm gonna let you introduce the track yourself. So you're gonna say, hi, this is Edouard, and you're listening to Into You on the Selection Live Show.
Hi, this is Edouard, and you're listening to Into You on the Selection Live Show.
You want to drop us a line during the show? If you have a message, use the hashtag Selection Live Show on Facebook and Twitter. Laurent Schark Selection Live. Welcome back to the Selection Live Show. You just listened to the absolutely amazing, exquisite, il me manque des superlatifs, Into You by Edouard, who is live with me from his recording studio. Edouard, welcome back.
Thank you, Laurent.
Alors, toi qui es français, tu sais qu'il n'y a pas de façon de dire welcome back en français, on ne dit pas re-bienvenue, ça se dit pas.
Eh ben c'est vrai que qu'on peut dire non, on dit rien.
On dit rien. Je dis bah écoute,
on dit je suis avec Edouard.
Voilà, c'est ça.
Voilà, je suis encore avec Edouard, il est toujours là, il n'a pas bougé.
so this track is for me is a milestone. Is absolutely amazing in terms of production, in terms of quality. This is absolutely amazing. Okay, how did you? Question. That's the. It's not really a geek question, but how did you come up with such a massive piece of art. Did you wake up with a melody in your head? How did you channel your inspiration for this track?
Oh,
Prends ton temps, j'ai la bière.
Ouais, tu peux prendre ton temps. There's no real explanation or source or whatever. It's just you start a session, you start working on a session, and you try a lot of different things. And at some point, you could be inspired by an instrument. Sometimes, but what I mean by instrument is like a sound, a type of sound. Or you can be inspired by maybe a piece of lyrics, or maybe you already have the idea. And I already had the idea of the story where it would be love at second sight, not love at first sight, but love at second sight.
I know what you mean.
And it takes time, and then you realize that it's the right person. Because I had heard stories like that, and I felt I had been surprised by that. Actually, I heard that a friend of mine told me he's been best friends with a girl until actually she became his wife, and that told me that it took them 10 years to realize that, and without having to wait 10 years. In any case, I thought it was a good subject to make a song about love in general, but with a little spin on it that would be different, and that would still be at the same time a bit sexy and sensual, at the same time a bit romantic. So it would talk to everyone.
Oh, that's amazing! But because you were talking about the fact that you basically bought a lot of synthesizer, and I know that when you have these toys, in studios, you switch them on and you experiment sound.
Yes.
And sometimes you get the idea, I love that sound, maybe I can make a track out of this sound,
Exactly.
And inspiration can come from like a completely random song. There was an artist that I welcome on the show who said that he was doing some, like sound design on the synth, and his coffee mug fell on the synthesizer and touched some buttons, and he actually made the sound of the track.
Oh my god!
So literally, you can't say, okay, dear listeners, and especially dear young artists, you can't say tomorrow 10:30 I'm going to be inspired. It doesn't work like this. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
It comes from anything and everything. You obviously you are a producer. You are fully involved in the music industry, and what people should know as well is like you also have a personal life as well, because you're a human being. Okay, so let's ask this question simply. How do you manage, let's say, what is Edouard's weekly agenda from Monday to Sunday? How do you manage your time?
Oh my god.
I know. Encore une fois, pour 30 ans, il me reste de la bière. Tu sais quoi? Attends, Edouard, ce qu'on va faire, je vais la traduire donc pour les radios françaises. Je vais la poser en français cette question et je la traduirai en anglais. Okay. Donc voilà. Donc quel est l'agenda hebdomadaire de Edouard, on va dire du lundi matin au dimanche soir? Comment tu manages ton temps pendant la semaine?
En fait, j'ai pas vraiment d'emploi du temps, pour dire la vérité.
C'est ça le secret.
En fait, je remarque, et d'ailleurs c'est ça qui permet d'être efficace en réalité. De pas en avoir. Alors évidemment, il y a quand même des moments où on a des rendez-vous, on a des horaires et tout.
Bien sûr.
Mais dans les trous qui sont laissés entre les rendez-vous, finalement, il faut se dire qu'est-ce que je sens que j'ai le plus envie de faire. Et si je fais quelque chose que j'ai plus envie de faire parmi les choses qu'on a besoin de faire, on va dire, et ben c'est là que ça va mieux se passer, plutôt que de se forcer à faire quelque chose qu'on n'a pas envie de faire. Alors après,
exactement.
On peut pas tout repousser. Évidemment, il y a des choses qu'on veut moins faire que d'autres, mais j'ai quand même remarqué que même pour des trucs parfois pénibles, il y a des moments où on a plus envie de les faire parce que on réfléchit pas trop, on fait des choses un peu de façon parce qu'il y a toujours de la maintenance, il y a des choses à faire qui sont de l'administratif, des choses comme ça, ou même le travail de promotion. Et il y a des moments où on sent que c'est peut-être le moment pour un truc artistique. Et là, du coup, quand on rentre là-dedans, on sait très bien que en fait, quand on sait quand on commence, on sait pas quand on termine.
C'est ça.
Et parfois, on se couche très très tard parce que quand on est sur un bon filon, quand ça marche pas, on arrête au bout d'une heure. Quand on est sur un truc, moi, je lâche pas tant que j'ai pas totalement fini. Tant pis si à la limite, il faut que je termine épuisé, quoi. Donc
génial.
c'est comme ça un petit peu que je gère. Hein.
C'est génial. So quickly for the listeners, basically, what's the weekly agenda? Is that the plan is no plan. You always have your weekly duties. You have to pay your bills. You have to do some, mechanical works. To to be able to keep a roof on your head, but sometimes when you have to fill the gaps in between, you get some this kind of inspirational moments. You start, you get involved in it. When you start, you never know when you're gonna finish, and this is actually the best moment, because this is what inspiration again comes from anything, and it's like, oh, I feel weak, I feel happy, and all these emotions actually reflects in your in your music, which is actually the best message. Literally.
Yes, it's exactly that.
So you are and I'm literally proud to say that you inspire a lot of artists. You inspire actually a lot of people and young artists who are listening to us. If just tomorrow, just imagine, okay, you get this big artist, you're a big fan of, okay, and he's gonna call you and he's gonna say, Edouard, I would love to collaborate with you. I would love to do a song with you. Who would it be?
Yes, the thing is...
Il va dire Britney Spears. J'en suis sûr, il va dire.
No, why not? No, maybe so. I mean, I would be glad, actually. And maybe you could even tell that the style of vocals on the Into You title was a bit in this kind of inspiration, actually.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't wait that the person that the very big artist calls me. I would try to contact them first, which is some of the things that I've done before.
Yeah.
When I like some people's work, I call them so that we collaborate. So that's something that I did with Lifelike, and also I've participated in a few contests, which normally I would not do, because first of all, I think that music shouldn't be a contest. You should create freely without having a goal or something.
Yeah.
But in two very specific case, because I wanted to get in touch with Chromeo and with Oliver, because I was really a big fan of those two, and they had a great feedback of my demos that was just a 1 minute demos, and it's beyond that is good, because those 1 minute demos, I'm going to transform them into full features songs. So this is what I've done until now. And actually, I've had some occasion to discuss with some artists that are huge, like Kenny G, if you know Kenny G.
Of course.
And at some point I told him, maybe you could play some saxophone for one of my tracks, and I wasn't expecting him to say why not or something like that. I thought he would say no, and he said, okay, why not, send me something. And the thing is, I had nothing for him at that moment in time, because the things I had, all the demos I have, and God knows I have like 100 of them, they were not exactly in the style that would require that saxophone playing.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I spent 2 full days in my I'm in my schedule, so that's a good illustration of that, to just compose a track exactly for him. But the thing is, when I first listened to Kenny G tracks, I was quite young, and he was in late 80s, early 90s. So I listened to his songs at that moment. So the song I sent him was a bit in that style, even though it was like neo that style.
Yes, I know exactly.
If it was neo funk.
Yeah.
But the thing is, even though it was modern in a sense, it was also half retro. And unfortunately, Kenny G said that he didn't want to go back to that time, and it reminded him of that, and he wanted to move forward, which I understand. But it was great to do this whole process, and once again, this demo track that I did is going to become a full-fledged track, because I really and it's not going to be a saxophone, but then it's going to be a singer, and it's great like that. So it's already collaboration is already something I take into account in my process of composing, because I think it's interesting.
That's amazing
to do that, and this is why I actually made the cover of a song of Jean-Michel Jarre that I listened to when I was a teenager, and I met him in the plane, and I told him I absolutely have to do this cover of his song, and he said yes. And that was great.
That's awesome. I mean, you know what? You know what? Because I have it. You did a cover of Chronology Part 3. At the end of the interview, we're going to play it. I'm a huge fan of Jean-Michel Jarre, and the people around me, they know that. The reason why I'm a producer today is mainly thanks to Jean-Michel Jarre. Literally, there is no bigger fan than me.
Well, he's the godfather of French touch.
It is. You know? And for the listeners who don't know Kenny G, okay, very simple. Kenny G is a saxophone on a Whitney Houston track, I Will Always Love You. That's him, literally, okay?
And Kenny G, I have to say, is like the biggest, most successful instrumentist all over the world.
That's true, that's true.
He made more than $1 million with his song, so that's quite telling.
He's super talented, and if you like, Bodyguard, and you watch, Whitney Houston, and I Will Always Love You, and or any other tracks with the Kenny G. There is one track called Waiting for You on the album as well. That's Kenny G. Literally, this guy is absolutely amazing. So there is one track that I love about you. It's called The Feel of Summer. So we're gonna play that track right now. Okay, guys, listeners, if you have any questions to Edouard, we are, as you know, the social networks on Telegram, okay, Selection Live. This is the best way to ask your question. If you have any question, or if you just want to say, well, we just love you, okay, that's on Telegram on the bottom of the page. As usual, laurentshark.com/selection. There is a phone number. Use it, abuse it. This amazing track that I love is called The Feel of Summer by Edouard. This is right now in the Selection Live show.
The Laurent Schark Selection Live show.
Feel the summer
Laurent Schark's selection live. Welcome back to the Selection Live Show. You just listened to the absolutely amazing The Feel of Summer by Edouard, who is live with me on the phone. Edouard, welcome back.
Thanks, Laurent.
Oh, you know what? That track, and you said that before, it's like every time you do something, you try to do something different. The Feel of Summer is completely different from Into You and different from stuff that I received. There is another track of yours. Guys, listen to the track by Edouard called Another World. Absolutely amazing. We're going to play this at the end of the interview, the Chronology Part 3 by Edouard as well from Jean-Michel Jarre. You're going to absolutely love it. Obviously, I share on social networks, the Spotify, everything. Guys, this is caviar for your ears. Edouard, I've got a few. Okay, we've been talking a lot in English. I'm going to ask this question in French, okay? Because on a aussi we have some French radios as well.
No problem.
Voilà. Alors, Edouard, j'ai deux, trois petites questions personnelles, ok? Une, c'est que tu es un artiste connu et reconnu. Tu as ta vie personnelle, machin. Mais dans la, et je pense que c'est une question, mais en même temps, je pense que tu vas donner un petit peu des conseils aux jeunes artistes. On ne sait jamais ce qui va se passer demain. On a certains artistes ont une vision sur le court terme, d'autres sur le long terme. Ok. Est-ce que pendant toutes ces années, tu as eu un moment de doute dans ta vie où tu t'es dit, est-ce que c'est vraiment ça ce que je vais faire? Et la question bis, c'est comment tu as surmonté un petit peu cet obstacle?
Bien sûr, évidemment qu'on se pose toujours cette question.
Voilà.
Et c'est ça, c'est normal. Et même qu'à un moment donné, on peut faire quelque chose qu'on aime faire, et puis à un moment donné, on en a marre et on veut passer à autre chose. Pourquoi pas? Donc tout est possible. Donc il faut écouter ces signaux. Ensuite, les conseils que je donnerais, c'est malgré tout, il faut rester raisonnable. C'est-à-dire qu'il ne faut pas du jour au lendemain jeter son travail et compagnie. Et ça, quel que soit le projet, même en dehors de la musique. En gros, ce que je dis, c'est que on commence à faire ça le soir, le week-end, quand on a un moment de libre ou autre. Et si on voit que ça marche, si on voit qu'on s'épanouit dedans et que ça commence à prendre un peu, la sauce commence à prendre, là on peut commencer à se poser des questions. Donc en fait, il faut rien s'interdire, il faut juste le faire raisonnablement, voir si ça marche et se donner le temps aussi pour le faire.
Ah, c'est génial.
Voilà.
Voilà, sans se forcer. C'est ce que tu disais au tout début. Il faut pas se forcer pour faire ce genre de choses.
Non.
Okay.
Faut pas se forcer, mais par contre, il faut quand même donner le meilleur de soi quand on fait quelque chose. Par contre.
Ah, voilà. Guys, it's all about patience at work. Okay, don't do things that halfway. Okay, just if you do it for real. Okay. If tomorrow you meet the 15 years old Edouard. Okay, like in a movie. Okay, you meet the 15-year-old Edouard. What would you tell him?
Oh my God! I'm gonna tell him you're in for some ride. Oh my God! I'm gonna tell him fasten your seatbelt.
C'est genre, mais qu'est-ce que tu fais là?
I don't know. That's a trick question.
I know.
Honestly, I mean, obviously, the thing I would want to tell him is the actual thing that could happen, and so that he doesn't do the same mistakes.
Okay.
Obviously, I would do that.
Okay.
But I wouldn't change too much because, I mean, I don't know. What I've done.
You learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, you learn from that, and it's fine because if I remove the thing that that I wouldn't do again, maybe I wouldn't be the same person either. So you really cannot. It's a metaphorical question.
I know,
I think
just do your thing. Literally, just do your thing. Do your thing. You're gonna make some mistakes, and it's fine.
Do your thing, but do it right. Do it right. It has to be said.
Okay. Talking about the future now. Okay, Edouard. Do you have like a dream? Something like you really want to achieve? Something that you have in your guts, and you're like, that's the next step. Tell me. Tell us.
Yeah, I mean, of course, in general, as any, I suppose, music producer would tell you.
Yeah.
I always hope that I can have a larger audience and more people would appreciate my music.
Of course.
And not necessarily so that I would be more well known, because this is not something I care about, that I'm looking for, but that they know more about my music. But obviously, the two are related.
Of course. But do you have like a dream, something like a collaboration, an album or a project, something you really
collaborations. Obviously, as I said, there are many artists that I love that I would love, but. Actually, the thing that I dream the most about is not about other people or other things or more success or whatever.
Just being in the game.
It's just about but it's about me perfecting myself, creating even better tracks, and I just wish I want to be sure that I do the most I can.
Okay.
And then I can create the best tracks I can create, and I can, maybe how can I say, move beyond a few limitations, because we always have a limitation that we may not be aware of, and so I hope that I can manage, for instance, to go more towards what would be my exact personal style.
Yes,
that wouldn't be either too niche, either too general. So that would be my dream, actually, that I find the exact spot where I need to be.
There's the thin line just right in between, to respect the trend but to have this enough originality to be different. I think any artist dreams about this, make sure that we respect the trend to be able to be broadcast on radios and be played by DJs, but different enough to was like, oh, that's Edouard, that's the signature sound. I think is every artist's dream.
Which is tricky because if some people tell about that you have a signature style, it may also be something that limits you, because you have then to follow that signature style.
That's true.
So it's a bit difficult, actually. It's a question I often ask myself, because I've been having a lot of demos in different styles, like synthwave and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That many people have already made a lot of synthwave tracks, and so first of all, there would be no need for more synthwave tracks in the world, except if I can make them a bit different, if I can do something that's between two styles, or so it has to be to find a fusion of things, a mix that makes things interesting. Perhaps even more than having your own style, because it's limiting to have only one style. But if you can bring something that's actually creative, that's new, innovative, and at the same time that people can like instantly, that's a great thing.
That's a win. Because a lot of bands and artists, when they are stuck into one genre of music, and then we try to and they try to elaborate new genre, and especially genres of music that they actually love, and they was like, oh, I've never been there. You always have this dilemma. You're just like, half of my fans are going to be like, wow, we didn't expect that, and half of the fans are like, oh no, this is not what I expected.
Which is why I'm trying to actually let people know from the very beginning of this new project that each track is going to be a different style. So it's not going to be the same thing.
That's a good way to get people used to listen.
Maybe, I don't know. It's something to try. I'm trying.
But still there is this Edouard, sound, this Edouard, atmosphere that we can recognize, in your sounds. Like, oh, I think Edouard put his hand in this, you know what I mean?
yeah. And actually, I think maybe even with when it comes to different styles, I think there is also always a kind of common feature in the songs, which is this retro 80s thing that I have in my ear, and I cannot prevent myself from making the song a bit retro and a bit 80s. And actually, and sometimes I do that voluntarily, and I'm pushing it a bit, which you can find in Into You, because it's it's a synth pop song, but obviously not in exactly as it was made, as synth pop was made in the 80s. But even though it is modern, you can still have the synthesizers sounds a bit from the 80s. So in the production, I take that into account. So maybe that's the common thing between all the different songs and styles that I can have.
That's absolutely amazing. You take the ingredients from the 80s, but changing the recipe to make it sound mainstream, because obviously the
Yes.
way to listen to music has changed, the way the radio broadcast
Yes.
music changed as well, but you always have this
Yes.
kind of 80s ingredients. And not
Yeah.
only you, but you were mentioning, for example, Chromeo before as well. Chromeo love his 80s.
Yeah.
Not long
Yeah.
ago, even The Weeknd released a track
Yes.
really sounds like haha. So I mean, 80s is forever, is definitely alive, and a lot of people take the influences from the 80s because
And even for the young audience that hasn't known actually 80s, it's still something that they like, that they can appreciate. And you have this kind of neo-nostalgia, I don't know how they call
Definitely,
that, nostalgia, that people can be nostalgic of a time that they did not know. And probably it is best like that, because actually, if you go back to the 80s and you look at everything that was better at the time, not everything was as good as what we remember. So it's like we have curated the 80s and we kept the best of them.
Yeah.
And we can give that to a new audience, which is great, I think.
Definitely, you're literally upgrading the 80s with a new sound. And, and
I
the
hope
thing
so.
is, and the kids, like the new generation, basically, they don't go any further than, let's say, early 2000s. So everything before that, for them, they never heard of it. I mean, in some countries, some kids have a really good education. But if you take something from 20, 30 years ago and you revisited it a little bit, and people, they're gonna be like, wow, that's the new sound, and you're just like, oh, well, that was done like 30 years ago.
And this is why you have those new styles that are coming and getting created all the time. You have new disco, you have electrofunk,
that's true,
and you have retro wave and synthwave, and you even have a new funk right now. That's just a new thing apparently. And so there are a lot of new things that are actually a mix of all things, and some very new stylistic features.
That's true.
In music.
Talking about production, okay? Are you working? Are you let's talk about the future. Are you working on something that you're gonna release soon? Do you have like a new track coming up? Something that you can announce to your fans?
I can tell that I am working on the retro funk so many names. Electrofunk, that's the name. Electrofunk EP. And I'm working on the tracks, but they're not ready yet, and that's a lot of work. And I'm working a lot on each track. So I know it's going to be like that. So it's going to be yet another change of style.
Nice.
But it will. I feel it's a change of style, but at the same time, it's an evolution. You can hear where it comes from and where it's going. And so this is what I'm working on. But the tracks are not complete. Because if they were, I know that I'm never patient enough to keep them for too long. So they will be already released, which is not possible because I just released my first EP. So give me a bit of time. But they're definitely on the way. And I mean, I have a bit more than 100 demos that I need to develop. And so it's interesting because sometimes when you get inspiration, you get inspiration to create something new, but not to progress more on an existing track.
I know what you mean.
So I cannot decide what I'm going to work on.
Again, you don't control inspiration. Sometimes you inspire this track that I started 6 months ago, that's the one I'm going to work on tomorrow. I'm inspired for that one. So Edouard, I'm going to announce your social networks and everything. Obviously I already announced 1,000 times where people can find you. You've been giving a lot of insight, about the music industry, about your life, about the way to succeed, about the way to work on your music, and you give a lot of pieces of advice for young listeners who would love to become a half of who you are today. Okay, if you have to change something because you've been in the game for so many years, so you've been through all the let's say the revolution, a technological revolution in the music industry as well. If there is something you would change today, that would fit a little bit more your personality, your music, something that you would say, we don't need that, and that would be good because talent would come up front more, easier than showing up photo with your feet in front of the swimming pool. You get the point, right? If there is anything you would love to change in the music industry so that talent would prevail.
It's really complicated.
I
know.
I
understand what you mean very well, but I don't know what would need to be changed, because I don't even think it's something that has to be changed in the music industry, in the sense that, for instance, I don't know. For instance, the music labels, yes, they still control what goes on the radio, but people can have a choice in a way. They can find new artists on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, but I don't know what could need to be changed, because it's really hard. A lot of people want to feature their music and want to do music. I don't know. There should be a study about that.
The thing is, because a lot of young artists literally embrace the new technology, the TikTok and the Snapchat and all the stuff like this. And sometimes, as we are in our 40s, you and me. You know what I mean? We were like, sometimes you're like, but back in the day, music cost a fortune to be produced. We had to go to the studio with a sound engineer, and you had to press vinyls.
I remember that.
You know what I mean? And a lot of artists I miss that time when our social network was the vinyl store and not Facebook.
I'm going to tell you where. I understand what you mean. I'm going to tell you where I stand on that.
Tell me.
Thing. I knew the time when you needed to have a lot of hardware to make music. At the time when we were artists at BMG. We went there, and people, they needed to have like a $40,000 worth of gear to make music and professionally. And at the time, we went to the BMG building, and there were a few machines over there so that we could make professional music. But it was already starting to be the computer revolution, and we had already started doing music with very simple DAWs like a Cakewalk and a Gravis ultrasound card or a Sound Blaster card.
That's true.
And we worked a lot to try to make it sound almost as professional as what came out of a studio. And at least good enough to be released. And we worked on that. And so we were kind of, and I remember there was one article at the time, but that was a long time ago, some 20 years ago. And there was an article where they said, they're doing music and they're sending their files to each other by a modem, because we were, were working on the same track remotely. And that was something that was never done before, apparently. And so I really appreciate how today you really need no money at all. I mean, apart from a computer, you need no money at all to make music that sounds absolutely professional. Especially in the case of electronic music, because when you have live instruments, it's a bit more complicated. You need to go to a studio. But electronic music, you need nothing more than your ears and skills, obviously. A lot of skills, because composing skills are not the same as writing skills, are not the same as arranging skills, producing skills, mixing skills, mastering skills. They're all different skills that you need to learn. But at the same time, you need to have good friends that can show you that. You have YouTube, you can find a lot of tutorials. So of course you have to filter out the bad advice, but still you have access to a lot of information, and everything is possible. So making music is not an issue nowadays, and actually which makes for a lot more competition in a way. On the other hand, the thing is that making yourself known it's still difficult, because you're not going to get played on radio if you don't have the contacts. And it's not as much about talent than about contacts.
Because a lot of music is released every day, because now the people have the possibility to produce a track in 5 minutes and sell it in 5 minutes.
Yes, and also if you're just a musician and you don't know how to do cover art or artwork or design, graphic design, you're going to need some other people. So nowadays people need much less to be in a music label as before.
Okay.
If they know how to do graphic design themselves, or maybe they have friends that can do that for them cheaply or for free. If they can do the music on their own now with the computer. So less and less artists do need music labels, but we're not at that point yet where you can easily get well known by just being an independent producer. Because actually music labels will do some promotion work for you, that is very hard to do when you're independent. So we're not there yet.
Yeah.
And for now, when it comes to promotion and making yourself known and having the contacts, because actually it's more about contacts. So, and obviously we all hear about those stories when we have those artists that started on TikTok, but artists like that, it's maybe like 1 or 2 per year. So there's still the exception for now, and hopefully it will be more in the future.
You know, I was talking to Seron not long ago, and he has a tattoo on his arm saying that the right time at the right place. And that's what you said, basically, you know, connections. What you're saying that, like, obviously years ago, 20, 30 years ago, it was actually very expensive to produce music. And you had much more opportunity to be able to pitch your music to radios and to labels, because there was not many productions. Nowadays, basically, the music, the let's say the budget, you don't spend in a studio because you can do that on a laptop. You have to spend it in another way, wisely, about being exposed, being promoted with a record label and all the social networks. So you can basically express your talent a little bit more than before, because now with a laptop and a mouse you can do things. But obviously there is a compensation about the fact that you can produce music easily. Is like the money you wouldn't spend in the studio, you have to spend it somewhere, to make sure that your track is
and especially if you don't do live shows, because nowadays most of the money comes from live shows. So if you decide to be more like a kind of studio producer, like actually I'm doing, you should really not expect to make a lot of money from that. It's almost impossible, apart from synchronization with movies or whatever. But really everything is the money is to be made in the live shows. So not all the artists want or to do live shows, or maybe it doesn't actually fit their style or what they're doing. So it has to be taken into consideration as well.
That's true. You're absolutely right.
It's still very hard to make it. But I also want to remind that all hope is not lost, and that you can create your own opportunities.
Definitely.
When I saw Jean-Michel Jarre in the plane sitting there, I stopped people from entering into the plane, and they were waiting in line behind me. And I remember the stewardess; she was not very happy. But I talked to him very quickly, in 15 seconds. I told him everything I needed, and he was actually flying to Berlin, and when he went to Superboost. So I was able to resume the conversation at Superboost. That actually just finished Superboost this year, and I just came back from it. And that's Superboost, for those who do not know, it's the place. It's like a trade show, and with everything about electronic instruments.
Yes,
and so this opportunity with Jean-Michel Jarre, I created it. You should not expect that the opportunities will come to you. You should come to the opportunities.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, and if you think positive, you attract positive. Always.
Yes.
It's such an inspiring interview, Edouard, because you not only about your career, but also all the pieces of advice you can give to young, to listeners, to your fans, and to young artists. Is like, and as you said, hope is not lost. That's true. There is still place for talented people. As I told you at the beginning, we get more than 40 radios connected with us tonight, which is like 3 million unique listeners. No pressure, okay? And obviously, plenty of your fans are listening to you right now. Do you have a message for your fans? I love you.
Well, I definitely love them, and I'm very glad they appreciate my music, and they can count on me to release more music with that kind of 80s vibe, and also they can count on me to surprise them, which is important.
Edouard, c'est que de l'amour, c'est que de l'amour, Edouard. Parce qu'on a plein de, bien entendu, on a une grosse majorité de radios francophones aussi qui nous écoutent au Canada, en Belgique, en Suisse, en France. Et bien entendu, il y a plein de fans francophones qui t'écoutent. Un petit message pour tes fans francophones. S'il te plaît, mon Edouard.
J'espère que vous allez aimer mon EP Into You.
On se régale.
Je pense que c'est vraiment j'espère qu'on va se régaler. En tout cas, j'espère qu'ils vont danser dessus, ou qu'ils vont l'écouter en se relaxant, ou dans un club avec des versions club. Donc voilà, merci de suivre mon travail. Ça me fait très plaisir. En gros, c'est pour vous que je fais ça, parce que en gros, si si personne vous écoute, on arrête, quoi.
Exactement.
Donc voilà, c'est grâce à vous que je continue à me demander comment je peux avancer, quel doit être mon prochain morceau, mon prochain EP. Voilà.
Ah, c'est ça. On fait ça pour les fans. On fait ça pour leur donner des émotions. C'est vrai, hein. Au final, on fait pas ça que pour nous. Edouard, thank a million. You obviously, if people want to know more about you, you're very easy to find. If I just googled Edouard Music and I found everything. You've got your Linktree link, guys. If you go to Instagram, it's Edouard Music. Very easy. On Facebook is Edouard Off, like official. On SoundCloud is Edouard-Music. Twitter, Edouard Music. Guys, if go to edouard.audio, this is his own website, and you can find out about the music and also about all the stuff that he's doing on the side, especially the programming for synths and stuff like this. If you're a geek, go there. I spend like 2 hours on your website, Edouard.
And I have to say for the international audience that Edouard is Edouard.
Exactly, with a D at the end.
Because, it's the French version of Edward, obviously, and not too many people, for instance, in the US, know about this first name. So usually I have to say it for them.
No, because in America they spell Edward with a W, like EDW. For your name is EDOUARD. Okay, Edouard.
Yes,
okay, guys,
the
Edouard.
French version.
Spell it properly.
Exactly.
Edouard, you're gonna stay with me offline. We're gonna check the message from the listeners. You're gonna stay with me for another few minutes. Okay. We're gonna check the message from the listeners, guys. Again, if you have any message to Edouard, please use it, abuse it. Go to Telegram. Is Selection Live is free. Okay, you can use the phone number that we shared like 1,000 times on WhatsApp, iMessage, anything. If you have any question, if you just want to say that we love you, please do it now. Okay, it was going to be with me for another 2-3 minutes. Ida was talking about his fantastic acquaintance with Jean-Michel Jarre back from Germany, and he did an amazing cover of Chronology Part 3. I love this album. Edouard, je te le dis en français, dans mon studio j'ai le poster de Chronologie avec les 5 personnes, tu sais, sur fond noir. Je l'ai, voilà.
Oui, et justement, tu as peut-être vu la cover que j'ai faite pour le cover art que j'ai fait pour ma cover,
ouais,
où je reprends le thème des personnages avec les horloges et tout ça.
Oui, dans des, comment t'appelles ça, des sand, comment on appelle ça?
Des capsules un petit peu spatio-temporelles.
Comment on appelle ça? Ça ressemble, tu sais, où tu mets le sable à l'intérieur.
Des stasis fields. Oui, un
sablier, dans le sablier.
En fait, ce sont à la fois, c'est un peu sur le mode des stasis fields, là où les gens restent comme ça, mais avec en forme de sablier pour reprendre le thème, en fait, de
génial.
La couverture de l'album original, quoi.
On va partager ça encore avec les auditeurs. Ils vont se rire, c'est magnifique. Et c'est toi qui as fait ça?
Alors, la cover, c'est Philippe Audace.
D'accord.
Qui est cet artiste-là. Moi, j'ai fait les covers de Another World et Into You. Et les covers de mes 3 premiers singles, c'est Philippe Audace.
Voilà. Génial. Philippe, franchement, grand seigneur. C'est magnifique.
Il a été reconnu, il a été primé pour sa cover de Equinox Infinity. Hein.
Rien que ça. Edouard, stay with me. Guys, once again, use it, abuse it. We got the hashtag as well, Selection Live Show on Twitter. We're going to try to check Twitter. It's dying, but we're going to try to check it. Otherwise, Telegram, WhatsApp, iMessage, we're literally everywhere. This is the fantastic cover of Chronology Part 3 by Jean-Michel Jarre, revisited by Edouard. This is right now in the Selection Live Show. Edouard, merci 1000 fois. Des gros bisous. À très vite. Bisous, bisous.
Thanks a lot, Laurent.
Welcome to the Laurent Schark Selection Live Radio Show.